What's happening, everybody? This week is another episode of Get Weird with your host, me, Brittany Barbieri. This week, we're diving into Bigfoot, Sasquatch. So if you don't like that, you don't have to listen. I'm going to make this fun. I'm going to share a very weird case that intrigues me, that is on the BFRO website as a documented case. Has some history to it, has some girth to it, and of course, it's freaking weird. So if it's weird, I'm all about it. I love the weird, but I also love Bigfoot, the big hairy guy. Who doesn't love Bigfoot? I loved Harry and the Hendersons when I was a kid. I wanted to be the Diane Fossey of Bigfoot. I really did. I wanted to be Bigfoot in the Mist with Brittany Barbieri. Maybe I should do that. Make it like a book, like a fiction book. That'd be so cool. I just always loved it. And I grew up in the Rocky Mountains of Estes Park, Colorado, and the stories of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, it just always surrounded me. It wasn't like I was a stranger to it at all. I would go to the library and I was always the kid getting the weird books, right? Like the cryptozoology books or the UFO books or the ghost books, because I was fascinated by it. I had my own accounts as a kid, and I just remembered thinking there has to be something more to it. And I do feel that I was drawn to this for my life. Didn't matter what road I took in life. It always brought me back to this. Didn't matter where. I think I shared that on the last podcast that I did. And my parents are very logical, but they also, when they break things down, they're like, there has to be something to it for it, to be real. There just has to be. They can't have this much history to something. What it is, we don't know, but there's got to be something to it. And I really appreciated that. And they encouraged me growing up to basically, step out of the box, don't follow the crowd, and do what your heart's desire was. And for me, that was the unexplained and the weird. I just was fascinated by it. And there was always a pull for me on my heartstrings to be led into that direction. So here we are, many years later, diving into the weird, the bizarre, and the freaking strange. So on this week's episode, I'm bringing up a case that actually is on the BFRO website. This one is weird to me because I always love those stories of unexplained mysteries, right? Where we think we might know, but we really don't know. And also having like an animal background, growing up with exotic animals and understanding different animals and working with them and things like that. I also have to stop and look at the evidence from a different perspective of knowing animal behavior and knowing that from the help of my brother being an animal behavioralist and growing up around animals and training animals and working with animals and educating myself with other things. And so it's interesting to me with this particular case because it is very weird, but it's very plausible or possible that it is Bigfoot activity. I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm going to share the story. I'm going to give you the layout here. And I want it to be left into your imagination in your hands. And you take from it what you want. I don't like to give a lot of perspective because I feel like then I'm already giving you a narrative, right? I'm telling you what you need to think it is or what you need to believe it is. And I don't like that. I don't like it being done to me. I prefer if someone's telling me something, like giving me information, let me figure out what I want to believe it is. I'm not going to take that from you. If you want to walk away believing that it's Bigfoot, let's do it. If you want to walk away saying it could have been a different animal activity, let's stick with that. Like, I'm cool with whatever, but I feel like sharing the story allows you to have another perspective. And I encourage you to read up on the story and kind of take from it what you want. Maybe I missed a clue. Maybe I missed something in the writing or, whatever. And then you're like, hey, maybe it actually was this and not that. Or maybe it's just hopeful and wishful thinking that it's Bigfoot, but really it's just nature, And I love that because we have to take a step back and not just assume. We have to have all the information on the table first to make a conclusion. And then in some cases, there's just not enough information and we're left pondering on the idea of could it be really something strange like Bigfoot? And I kind of like that world of and I like to say this, and I don't like to say this, but it's like fiction and make-believe. Are we living in a world of make-believe with this? Yes, kind of we are. Because we don't have enough tangible evidence yet. And you know what? That's okay. So let's get into this. Let's start this crazy journey into the cabin with the claw marks. Yeah, it's really creepy. I'm not going to lie. I mean, have you ever really stumbled across something that just felt wrong or made you go, what the heck? What am I looking at? So this is exactly what happened to a couple of hikers that came across this forgotten old cabin deep in the Cascade Mountains of Washington. There were no trail markers, no roads in sight, just dense trees, thick fog, and the kind of silence that hums and gives you goosebumps, like you feel like you could be being watched, but you're just so out there that really, honestly, if you scream, probably nobody would hear you, right? So these hikers stumble across this very eerie, strange, abandoned cabin. But what made it weird were the markings on this cabin. So people immediately go, oh, was it like witchcraft? Were they doing sacrifices? No, let me get into it. So the story goes that 2 experienced hikers, locals to the area of Oregon, were exploring a stretch of forest that had been closed off for probably logging, honestly, for earlier years. And it wasn't on any of the modern maps. They were just kind of chasing rumors of old homesteads and relics and, just things lost in time, right, in the woods. So they said the cabin looked like it had been there for at least 200 or so years, which I think is freaking cool. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be digging up floorboards wondering what's buried underneath the floorboards of this cabin. And you never know. I'm just putting that out there. Stranger Things, you know what I mean? Stranger Things. Speaking of that, that's coming out soon. Hello. Anyway, I'm like I'm like that ADHD dog where it's like, squirrel. What were you saying? Okay, so let's get back to it. I know that. I hope this made you laugh. So anyway, so the wood on this cabin was warped. The roof obviously had caved in over time. A lot of moss growth, a lot of nature had kind of taken back the cabin, which is really cool. But what really caught their attention were these deep claw marks on the outside of the cabin itself. And even for me as a field explorer, if I came across an abandoned building or a cabin, that is something I would be looking for too, like strange things on the outside or inside of the home, interior and exterior. And that's basically what they saw. And it wasn't just a few claw marks. According to them, it was dozens of deep violent gashes, like tearing into the walls, or basically something that would have had to be, if standing upright, about 6 feet tall, scratching, right? Now we know that cats like to stand up tall and scratch, there's no difference with mountain lions, things like this. But again, they basically were stated saying that this was not like cat markings. It was very deep, very like maybe a bear. Could have been bear markings. Bears do dig, especially on older wood. Could have been digging around looking for bugs. I'm just throwing out ideas. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just throwing out other logical explanations before we jump to Sasquatch. Anyway, they were asked that, by the way. Was it similar to like bear markings and so forth? And basically they said no, these were very different. These were vertical scratches, not like a paw scratch. Like these were vertical in and like gouging down, almost like, I guess, in a way to pull the wood off, I guess. I'm not really sure. They were evenly spayed, like a hand. So they would have been, evenly spaced out as you're trying to like put your hand up. So that's kind of cool. They basically wrote it as if they were saying somebody was trying to get in. Someone was trying to break in. So, okay. All right. Let's keep it going. Inside the cabin, everything was left exactly how it had been for decades. So, rusted old wood stove, 2 old metal bed frames, which I just love finding that stuff in the woods. Broken lanterns laying on the floor. And then they did say that they found bones. They were small animal bones, really picked clean and scattered kind of all over the place. There was a lot of water damage. Things like that. Now, listen, when you find animal bones, that's not strange to me. There's so many scavengers in the woods. People just automatically assume that it's like vultures are the only. No. Every animal will look for bones and look for meat and anything to live off of. So it's not strange to me that there's animal bones in an old abandoned building that is kind of like a safe space to eat, where you don't have to worry about something sneaking up and trying to grab your food. You're going to like tuck in and eat your food. So that doesn't make me have a red flag for Bigfoot, just so we're all clear. That's like normal animal behavior. Anyway, so there was like an old damaged, water damaged journal inside this cabin, allegedly, according to these hikers. They said that the pages were damaged to the point to where some of it was pretty like unable to read thoroughly, but there were a few lines that were legible. One of the lines said, "It comes again tonight. Heavy steps outside the window. I've barred the door, but I don't think it will hold. And then later it stated, the forest is wrong. No birds, no wind, just breathing. Okay, I don't know about you, but I've got goosebumps right now. Like, what? This sounds like the beginning of like a horror movie to me. Why has someone made this into a book or a movie? Because they should. This has got me creepers. I mean, right now. So that was apparently the last entry. The forest is wrong. No birds, no wind, just breathing. Freaking creepy. Who writes that? Who writes that? Listen, for me, okay, so no sounds. Okay, so if there's no birds, there's no bugs, and it just goes quiet. That's normally a sign that there's a predator. Something large is in the bushes, in the woods. When you're a field researcher, if the woods go silent, you need to be on the ready, right? That's predators, small prey animals will go quiet so that they are not food. So if it's quiet out there, you better keep your you got to keep your eyes on guard because you're not alone. That's like freaking field research, field investigation, especially in the animal world 101. Okay. Anyway, so the hikers went on to say that they felt watched the entire time that they were inside the cabin while they were snooping around, looking around, checking it out. And when they stepped out, one of them swore that they had heard something. It was low and heavy, possibly moving in between the tree line. Now, if let's just say it's a Bigfoot, it is quite possible that if this has kind of become, listen, Bigfoot, they're not making homes out there. They're not making wreaths and they're not celebrating Christmas in their house, setting up a Christmas tree with squirrels. Okay, that doesn't happen. But they could be looking at it like a den, a safe place, if that makes sense. Like if there's no caves by, this could be a safe space to live in and tuck in at night or during the day, whenever they sleep. Nobody really knows. Some people claim that they sleep during the day and they're nocturnal. Some people say they're not nocturnal, that they really don't have a schedule. It's kind of like they have ones that sleep during the day and ones that watch and keep their peepers open at night to protect everybody. So who freaking knows? Nobody really knows. We don't have Sasquatch to monitor like we do animals. So it's all it's all out there right now. We have a lot of cases where people study them on their properties and they bring back some information. But again, it's still all over the place. We have people, again, that say that they're nocturnal. Some people say they're not. So who knows? But if they're turning this more into a safe space for them to hide in, hunker down in, and make it a home base for them, then it's possible they were observing who are these strange people inside of our space, right? So they would have been observing, making sure that that nothing, they don't do nothing. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, so they left the area before dark. Who wouldn't? And then they came back about a week later with a park ranger. Here's where it gets freaking weird. Okay, the cabin was completely gone, and I'm not kidding. Gone, like no foundation, no rubble, no signs, like anything had even stood there. Just flattened grass and a single pine tree bent over, like at a really sharp angle, apparently, and something massive, they said, had like leaned against it. So I don't know. That's what it stated. First of all, what? Why is the cabin gone? Maybe they just got lost in their, like, on their map, they marked the wrong location. I'm just going with this, okay? Maybe they marked the wrong location and they forgot where this was and the cabin's not there and it's, freaking 40 miles the other way. Because I'm just trying to make sense of this, okay? It's like Brigadoon. So, honestly, at this point, my question to all my listeners, what do you think really happened in this cabin? What is the old, story here? Was it an old hermit's hideout that nature reclaimed and like he was losing his mind writing stuff? I mean, it's possible he was being tortured or haunted by Bigfoot. Who freaking knows? Did something tear it down? Did people not want people to know that cabin existed? Did bad things happen in that cabin and the hikers that felt like they were being watched was because some crazy lunatic was out there and was like, this is evidence and I've got to tear this cabin down? I mean, there's some locals that claim it's part of a string of strange disappearances that stretch out throughout the forest, where people report hearing growls that don't match any known animals, which is common with like Bigfoot sightings. Others believe the claw marks were proof of something much bigger, something we've all been chasing for years, our buddy Bigfoot. Some people really believe that out there. And then maybe the truth lies within the journal. Like if there was a way that we could get out, I mean, with the technology we have today, you would think that somebody could, I mean, frickin' A, we are diving into Dead Sea Scrolls and decoding them and pulling up ledger from the fibers of the cloth and things are being written on. But you're telling me we can't pull out from a waterbound book? Come on, we got to pull some. I mean, I'm trying to just stretch it here. I mean, it's possible. But what's interesting to me is that it's the claw marks to me, right? So if you go up, there's a lot of reports in regards to, or reports of being watched inside their home by Bigfoot, where Bigfoots have come up to the house. They've placed their hand up on the house. They've placed their claws on the house. They've made noises. They've thrown rocks. They've, beat things outside. They've left things on the property to make you know that they really don't like you being there. So like there's all these accounts and stories. So this cabin, if there were avid hunters, right, that would go out there and would write down, kind of like how you go to hotels and they have like a ghost ledger. What if this journal was out there and the hunters that would go out and stay in this cabin to do, to stay out for, because most time hunters will go out for like a week or two. If they're going out there and it's like, hey, Bob or Robert, just know that when you go out there, we have a ledger. If you hear anything, see anything, we're just trying to keep a log of the really weird activity that's going on around that cabin. I could see them keeping like a journal in there and everyone's kind of jotting down what they hear, what they think is weird, what they experience. Could it have been somebody who ran away, found an old hunting cabin, an old, kind of cabin in the woods kind of situation, and like took advantage of it and was living out there and was being tortured by something he couldn't see? Maybe their mind was going crazy. Or maybe it really was Bigfoot. Bigfoot didn't like this cabin being in the middle of their territory. Animals are very territorial. So that's a possibility. And it could have gone to the extent of like trying to break in. There's a lot of actual historical stories of Sasquatch with hunters in cabins. And I'm sure if you think hard, you could probably pull 5 right now that are famously known. Okay. So we are looking at a potential of a case that I don't know. I think it's interesting because again, now this was supposed to be up in Beaver, Washington. Now I'm pulling stats, I'm pulling all the information on this case because obviously, like I said, I just like these strange things. And here we have this strange cabin with these claw marks on the walls. And now here's another key fact. Okay, so apparently the hikers had mentioned footprints leaving from the cabin and walking into the forest. So that was another key takeaway. And they didn't really break down what the footprints look like. So again, if it's muddy, which they said it was kind of mud, so beyond the walls in the mud were footprints. And they said they looked human shaped. They were very big and too large to be any kind of known animals. They were really, really big. We have to also consider what a bare foot track, and we're talking Washington now, we got some big boys up there, what that would look like, especially if they do a double step. It would look like a massive footprint, right, leaving the cabin. So I don't know. This is one that I will dig deeper into. This is one that obviously has me, spinning around in my brain because it's weird. You've got a cabin that was there and then it's gone. You got claw marks on the outside of the cabin like something was trying to tear in and get inside. You got hikers that feel like they were being watched. You've got a journal with really weird cryptic writing, about everything feels wrong and there's just breathing. It's creepy, right? And you've got all these elements, and then they go back a week later with the forest ranger to be like, look, there's just something weird. We really want to show you. Can we just show you what we found? And then the cabin is just gone. So again, I'm going to look at this a little bit logically. I'm going to break this down as like a field investigator, as what I would do. unless I had more evidence to this case and I really dug into it, okay, I would be more up to say that it's most likely the hikers came across an old cabin, and what they were seeing were very deep bear claws and gouges into the side of this cabin, into the old wood, because like they said, if it really was over like 200 years old, we're talking about really old wood, bugs are going to get in there, termites, things like that. So you're going to have different types of bugs eating into the wood. Bears love the bugs. They're going to tear into that wood and they're going to begin what they want out of it. So it's going to look like something's peeling the wood off. Again, this is only my perspective. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm not saying anything. I just want to toss this out as food for thought. And then if it's muddy and it's wet and the soil's all wet, and of course, if it's silent in the woods, bears are a predator. Everything will go silent. And if they're walking away, if this big old bear is walking away after eating some num-nums, and it's walking away in the mud, and it's a big bear, it's going to two-step on itself, the back and the front, kind of go into one pad, and the mud's going to look like one giant footprint. And it's going to continue. It's going to make a path all the way into the woods. So there is that theory. And then with the cabin gone, like, oh my gosh, it's missing. It's like Brigadoon. It just comes and it goes, right? So there is the theory of time bending. Did they find a possibility of a cabin that was there briefly and then gone? Because in that moment of time slipping, it was in our present time, but now it's gone. Or did they, which we can get into a time slip episode in the podcast as well, because I have a couple, and that is a theory that I am very stuck on in the paranormal. 100%. And doing quantum physics and understanding science and understanding how all that works is very, very plausible. But let's also consider the fact that the hikers may have marked it down wrong on their map, and going back a week later, didn't go back to the exact spot. So again, you could, if this was going to be like a deep dive investigation into this, you could obviously get in touch with people with aerial drones and do a lot of surveys. You could do a lot of different ways of locating this cabin if it is out there and it's not some really strange mystery. Have you ever heard of the cases of where people are like, we've got staircases in the forest that lead to nowhere? That's a strange rabbit hole, people. So it doesn't surprise me that you see a cabin and then you go back and then it's gone, because the woods, unless you really know how to navigate through the woods, you can get disoriented pretty quickly and kind of get off track. And if these hikers aren't, I don't know much about the hikers. I don't know how good they were. I don't know if they were like pros out there and they very much know their ways around, or if they were just kind of like trail hikers and they stay on a trail. And when you get off trail, they were lost and they didn't really know what they came across, and they got their markers all wrong. And because there was no signs, there were no markers, there was no real way to figure out where this cabin was. It's very possible that they just got it wrong and they're just off by a little bit and the cabin is still out there. So it's a very fascinating and weird case that involves Bigfoot. But what is it really? Is it Bigfoot? Or is it something else? Or is it just a creepy old cabin that bears just love to eat the bugs out of? Obviously, I'm leaving this completely up to you, and I want you to do your own research into it. It's on the BFRO website. Dive into it. Have fun with it. Let your own investigation Jane come out in you, or Joe, if you're a boy, girl, whatever. And you just want to like dive into it. Just be like, I gotta figure this out. I want to find something. And let me tell you something. If you find a clue or something that's really cool about the case, or you know more about this case, I want to know more. Please share it with me. I always say we are always learning in this field. We don't know it all. We don't have all the answers, and we miss things. So I am all about learning. So if you know this case really well and you're from Washington, send me an email. Go to my Instagram, Brittany _Barbieri_ on Instagram. And you can hit the little email thing, and send me an email with any tidbit of information you have. Or if you've seen the cabin yourself, like if you actually have found the cabin and seen the cabin, send it my way. I want to know all the details. And if I get the details, I will do, if you're cool with it, You can tell me in the email. I'm not cool with it. Don't share my name or whatever. You can just share what I've told you, but don't say who you got it from. Totally cool. But I would love to do a recap on this episode of details with this mysterious cabin with the claw marks in the woods in Washington, because these are the cases I love. I love these weird mysteries that involve the supernatural, the unexplained, Harry and the Hendersons, my big guy, the Bigfoot. I love all these stories, and there's so many of them that we are going to dive into on this podcast right here. So that's it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed this. You can interact with me on my social page, guys, at Brittany_Barbieri_. You can check out all the things we're doing. I've been a little backlogged with so much going on behind the scenes, so there wasn't any content last week aside from promoting the podcast. But I will be getting back into the swing of things and talking about more really cool things to share with all of you. And I won't say things anymore because I said that a couple times. Sorry about that. Anyway, enjoy the weird and stay curious out there, guys. The world is not what we think it was or what we thought it was. It's not what we think it is. It's not what we thought it was. There it is. I need coffee. Lots of coffee, like right now. Get my brain working. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. It was a Brittanyism. That's something you'll learn from me, is where I jumble up some words to make it make sense, and it really doesn't make sense. That, my friend, is what I call a Brittanyism, and you're more than welcome to use them. But until next time, everybody, stay weird and stay curious, because it's a very weird and creepy place out there. And if you find a cabin that comes and goes, let me know about it. I totally want to check it out. So keep me in the loop. Stay weird. I'm out of here. I'm going to go have some coffee. I need some coffee.